Welcome back to the Joe Mac podcast. I have a very special guest on the show today. He is a director, writer, producer. He has been involved in many projects over the years. We're going to get into his backstory and his accomplishments. He's part of the Directors Guild of America. He is you're directing Promsieland. We're live right now. This is Tom Logan, and he's also trained myself, and a handful of actors in the art of acting. So, Tom, thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Joey. Glad to be here. Good to see you.
I appreciate you. The first thing you're joining us from Iowa, is that right?
No, Idaho.
Idaho.
Yeah, I still have to go down to LA all the time, but I now live up on a lake, kind of out in the woods in Idaho, and I can do all my pre-production and post-production on computer here. Much quieter, very serene, animals everywhere in my yard. And then when I have to do production, I shouldn't say have to, when I get to do production, I have to get down to LA all the time. But it's just kind of nice to be up here where it can be quiet and I can do my work.
Very good. Very good. How long have you been in the industry?
Oh, gosh. I started doing plays as an actor when I was third or fourth grade at local colleges, school kind of stuff. Went to New York and worked for a good while, and then moved out to L.A. So I'm somewhere between 66 and death. So I would say probably about 50-something years.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Been very fortunate, very lucky, very blessed to be always doing what I always wanted to do.
Okay.
And I never take that for granted. So.
Wow, very good. So quite a young age. That's kind of how you got, and you started out in the theater. So. I
did.
And then continued into college. And was acting something that you always wanted to be, or did the directing and the producing and the writing come later?
You know, at first it was just the acting. I was in the third grade, actually, and I was watching TV, and I saw these actors on TV, and I said to my mom, how much do those people have to pay to be on the TV? And she said, no, you don't understand. They get paid. And that's when I decided right then, okay, this is for me. I would say after I had done some Broadway shows and not on Broadway, but traveled the actual Broadway shows in the country, I kind of started realizing that I wanted to create my own work. I didn't want to rely on other people to get my work. So when I came out to LA, I was doing some soaps. I was on General Hospital on and off for 12 years and some other soaps and regular and TV shows.
How'd you get it? Not to stop the train, but how did you get into General Hospital? I mean, no, you don't just walk into General Hospital. I mean, how did you get that?
Well, my agent submitted me. I went in and read, and it started as an under 5, which means you have under 5 principal role, but you have under 5 lines.
Okay.
And it just turned into a recurring role, and it paid for my first house.
Wow.
So it ended up being a really good gig.
Wow. Fantastic. So I guess you had a good agent at the time.
I did. I've been very lucky, pretty much agent-wise, yeah.
Very good. Didn't mean to stop you on your... So you landed that was basically your first big role, essentially.
I had done some small guest starring roles on different series, but that was kind of my first regular gig. And then we had a writer strike or actor strike or something, and I had to do something, so I wrote a script. And I submitted it to people at Universal. They kind of turned it down. Well, they said they like the script, they want to do it, they just don't want me to direct it.
Okay.
And I said, oh, okay, well then you can't have the script. So that went on for 3 or 4 more months, and they called and said, we'd really like to do that script. I said, I'd really like to direct it. They said, we really don't want you to. I said, I really don't want you to have the script.
Wow.
So how weird this is, about a year later, it was on a Friday, and I just bought a house, and I decided I needed to make some money, and I thought on Monday I'm going to call him and throw the towel in. I said, I'll call him about 10 o'clock in the morning, California time. At 9:30, this is the absolute truth, they called and said, you can direct it. Oh. It was the weirdest. And that was at Universal down in Orlando. Okay. And then I did 5 or 6 more projects for him.
Wow.
Feature films for him, yeah.
Wow. So the script that you wrote was so important to you, and the reason that you wrote it is that you decided that you didn't want to depend on other people's visions. You wanted to create your own vision, and it was that important to you that you didn't want to let it go to somebody else, essentially.
Well, that sounds real good, and I'd like to say that. But the real reason is I just wanted to direct.
You wanted to
direct.
And
I figured the only way I'm going to get in to do it is if I have some kind of bargaining chip.
Okay.
So what you're saying is correct, but really the overlying thing was I wanted to direct.
Okay.
And it was a script I wrote called Dream Trap, which did pretty well. In fact, it starred Christy Swanson, who ended up right after that playing Buffy in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the film.
Oh, wow.
And so for me, it was just I got very lucky because I didn't know too much about directing at the time. But I'd been on a lot of sets as an actor, but I learned real quickly that didn't really cut the mustard when someone's saying, oh, what kind of gel Fresnel do you want on this? Do you want to use a bifresnel? Do you want to use, I mean, they're throwing all these terms at me, and I have no idea what they were talking about at the time. But luckily, since I had taught acting for many, many years and been around actors, the very first thing we did was casting. And so luckily, since we were in the auditions, I was saying, try this, try that, let's do this. And the suits, as we call them, were happy with that. So they weren't so upset when technically I didn't have a clue really what was going on, because I surrounded myself with people who did. And I learned a lot those first 4 or 5 films. And I did a lot of work for them and was on staff there for a good long time. So it was a great, I've been very lucky all my life, lucky break.
Well, yeah, lucky, but also you have the talent and the abilities to follow through with the opportunities that were available, obviously.
Well, I appreciate that. I hope that's true. But, I always feel like the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Okay.
And so I've always worked very, very hard. When I was an actor, it was 12-hour days trying to get in to see people. When I'm writing scripts, constantly. So, and most have been shot. I've been very lucky in that respect. And again, I think you got to be able to, whenever the luck works, you got to be able to come through.
Yeah.
Although on my first film, on Dream Trap, I was married at the time, and we were flying down to Florida to shoot it. And I said to my wife at the time, do not unpack, because real quickly they're going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing, and we'll be coming back. So don't unpack for the first month. It's a true story.
Okay.
Luckily, the first thing we did, as I said, was casting, and I did okay on that. So from then on, it was pretty smooth sailing. But as an example, we were shooting the first day of shooting, and we're shooting film back then, of course, which I still like to shoot. But they said to me after the first few shots, do you want to check the gate? This is a true story. And as you know what the gate is, you open up the lens, you look at the film, make sure there's no chips on whatever. And we were shooting in the producer's backyard in Orlando, Florida. And they said, do you want to check the gate? And I said, I'll leave it open. Of course, the whole crew starts laughing. And I'm like, okay, I better make a joke out of this. And I go, no, you guys check it. I got other stuff to do. So I watched what they did. This is how I learned.
Yeah, right.
Or they would come to me and say, Tom, do you want to use this kind of lens, that kind of lens? Do you want to, and they're asking all these technical questions. And I said to the cinematographer at the time, well, Andy, I'm a collaborative kind of guy. And, of course, the phone's going to ring. I said, I'll just let it.
Could be opportunity.
I said, Andy, I'm kind of perfect timing, huh?
Could be opportunity calling.
I'm a collaborative kind of guy, and I tell you what, I'm going to make the final decision, but I like to hear your decision. I like to hear what you think. He says, well, I think we ought to so-and-so. And I said, of course, that's the way to do it. That's what I was. Anyway, that's how I got through the very first film I did.
Wow.
And
wow.
And so luckily, that first film, I really, really learned a lot. And from that, I don't know how, by the grace of God, they gave me another few pictures, and it's interesting that even to this day, whenever I do a project, I walk away from that project learning something really important and wonder how I got through all the projects before. Because I believe that if you're not learning every time you do something and you think you know it all, you need to hang it up.
Wow.
And the industry changes constantly. The formats change, how we shoot, everything changes so rapidly. As you know, as an actor, as a working actor, you know that over the last 10 years, how we shoot everything's just evolving all of the time. So I just believe it's always a learning process. For me, if a director is speaking at the Directors Guild and I can get to go see it, I might have done more films than they have, but I'm still going to go watch because I always learn something, and it's always an evolving learning process.
Wow. So essentially, your first film, you got by it by kind of...
Well, I've been around it enough as an actor to kind of be able to kind of help myself get through it. Mm-hmm. But I really... Luckily, I surrounded myself. I didn't know everybody's job, but I knew enough about their job to hire the right people. And I always believe that's the important thing as a manager of a company. You don't have to be able to do everybody's job. We just lost the picture, didn't we?
No, you're still good on my end.
Oh, okay. Lost it on mine. I just believe you need to surround yourself, like a president or head of a company, surround yourself with people who know what they're doing and very specialized in each field. And that's how I look at a crew.
Wow. So essentially everything's a learning process. If you're not learning, you're not growing, you're not, the formats change, things change, you need to change with them is essentially what the key to success is.
Absolutely. I mean, you've grown as an actor. I know that personally. And that comes from just doing projects. We had a reading you mentioned on the podcast with Amy Johnson, who I really appreciate the nice things you guys said. Someone sent it to me, and I was like, "Oh wow, that was very nice." And she's great to work with too, by the way, as yourself. And I'm very excited about working with both of you on this on Promsieland on this project. So thank you and Amy for the nice things said. Totally unsolicited. Someone sent it to me, but anyway. Yeah, I'm really excited about this project, and again, all the people on it are pretty experienced people, and crew-wise and acting-wise. And we had a great read-through, as I was saying the other day, which you guys did a great job. It was fun working with everyone, and I always like to have that read-through. I'd like to do it in person, but under the circumstances, with everybody being in their homes, we did it online. It worked out fine.
I'm glad that you brought up Promsieland. What does this project mean to you? How would you describe this project?
Well, soap operas I won't say they're dying because they're still out there. I think they have a place. I have a history with them, so it means a lot to me. Studies have been done and shown that the reason people enjoy soap operas, and we call them soap operas because way back then they were the advertisers, and they still are basically, are soap companies. Because it used to be that women would stay home and watch them, and now men and women watch them. But that's why they're called soap operas. If you talk to a soap opera person, you better call it a daytime serial. So anyway, the soap opera format's interesting because all of these things actually happen to people, but they don't all happen to the same person.
Okay.
And so they say that it makes people feel better to see people in situations worse than themselves. For instance, if you go to the bank and you get in a really short line and then 100 people come in behind you, you feel real good about that. Or if you get in a long line and nobody comes in behind you, you feel kind of cheated. It's kind of interesting that we want to see people. I don't personally, but I mean, a lot of people want to see people in a worse position, and it makes them feel better about their position. And so they say it's kind of an uplifting. So that's my first general answer to that is I'm really interested in the soap format. This one's really interesting because it has some humor in it. It has some possible deaths in it. Can't say too much about what's happening in the future, but it's got some real interesting characters, and I'm real thankful for Jaron Hall for asking me to work on it.
Wow. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to being in it and being involved in it. And how is the success going to be measured of this project?
Well, everybody has different levels of what they think it's a success. I mean, I've shot stuff that made a lot of money and I thought it was trash, and I walked away. That was the most unsuccessful thing I've ever done. I've walked away from projects that didn't hardly make any money, and I was thrilled with it and thought, wow, that was a successful project. But if you look at the people who invest money in it, and I always have to have a fiduciary responsibility to whoever's putting their hard-earned dollars into this project, and I take that always very seriously, I guess you'd have to say, does it make money? Mm-hmm. You know, I always want to pay the investors back plus. And I've been very lucky so far that that's almost always happened. I guess there's been a few cases where maybe they broke even or whatever, but most cases, and a few maybe where they lost, but most cases people have walked away with money. So I guess if we get the series off the ground, we're doing the pilot, as you know, real soon here, depending on the virus and how that works out. Mm-hmm. And so I would measure, I guess, in this one twofold. Do we pull off what we thought we were going to when we see it in the final edit? Number one. And then number two, does it go somewhere or do we sell it? Okay. So that would be mine. But I look at success kind of differently than an investor would, although I'm always on their side and always thinking, even if I'm not happy with something, if they make money, at least on that part of it, I'm very happy. Because I do feel that a lot of directors don't. A lot of directors want to spend as much as they can. And I understand all of that because you do get better equipment, better shots and all that. But I have to balance that with the risk and the return. More risk we take, harder it is to get return. So I have to kind of balance the creative with the financial hard realities.
Is that your responsibility for this project?
Well, I guess the director's not the one who generally goes out and sells the project. You could make a great project and it never gets sold or never get distributed, and vice versa. So I wouldn't so much say that, but I would say my responsibility is to deliver the best product for the amount of money we're spending that I could possibly deliver, and then unfortunately it's in other people's hands.
I got you. Wow.
But I always feel some responsibility, of course, always.
So essentially, we're looking to get this series off the ground or sell it. Those are the two. Those are the two options, essentially.
Well, yes, and of course the other thing is we're creating work for people, which I love to do. You got a crew of people who are working. You've got the actors who are working. It is a union shoot. Okay. It is DGA union. It is SAG AFTRA. SAG-AFTRA union, so we're doing all the right things and the right steps, and we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm definitely excited about it. I don't want to get killed off too soon in the project. I definitely want.
Oh, you're already episode 2. You're gone. Oh. No, I'm kidding.
Come on, guys. Well, hopefully we can do some flashbacks or something. I can be a younger man.
We'll do a sequel, maybe.
Right.
I'm joking with you on the killing you off on the second episode.
Yeah. Now, Tom, when did you start? Now, you've taught classes. I've been involved in your classes. Me and Amy, we were scene partners in your class. I believe Jaron is taking your classes as well.
Yes.
How many other cast members on this thing have been taught by you?
Earl, I know for sure.
Earl Hunt? Okay.
Earl, Melissa didn't take my class, but I've worked with her in a series we did called Lisa's World.
Okay.
And so I think that's it offhand.
Now I like the things that me and Amy were talking about. I mean, the way that I like, I like the way that you're able to kind of communicate. Like, look, I want it like, look, if it's, I want to see it like this, right? And then you kind of explain it really. I mean, is that not how a direction should be? I mean, should you not be able to direct the person to how it should be? Obviously, the acting background that you have has helped you with that. Is there anything else that's contributed to your ability to direct somebody and get them on the mark, get them on the spot where you want them to be? Is there anything else that you would attribute to that?
First off, I'm not really a dictatorial type of person. I like the actor to bring me something and then me comment on it, because an actor just looks at their role in and of itself. I have to look at all the parts and how they fit together.
Okay.
For instance, take a show like Friends or Happy Days or any show that was very successful for a long time. Mm-hmm. It's not one character, it's the interaction of all the characters. As an example, I'm a fan of the Beatles. I love the Beatles. And I think together they're brilliant. Separately. So you can look at any sitcom sometimes as an example. And you love this actor in this sitcom. And you think, God, they're great. And then you see them in something else and you go, what happened? Because they were good with those people. So as a director, it's not just casting the best person for this role, the best person for that role. It's not the way it works. It's the best person for a certain role who works up against and off of the other actors.
Wow.
And so what I try to do when I bring actors together is that playoff, that how they interact and play off of each other. So a lot of times my comments are not so much read a line this way or that way. I hate to give line readings. I won't mention the actor because he's extremely well known, A-list actor that I said to one day, I've been giving you a lot of line readings and I apologized to him. It was about the second or third day. He goes, no, they're good ones. I like them. Go ahead. Okay, that was nice. I appreciate that. But really I just want to kind of give clues to what I'm looking for, and hopefully the actor will bring it. And a lot of times they bring things that are much better than I would have ever thought of. So it's really a collaborative effort. To me, it's a ballet. It's really a ballet between the actors and the director and the other actors and camera people and all that, all interacting with each other. I was a dialogue coach for many, many years. So you asked about directing actors, and I was a dialogue coach for some really big directors. Back then we had beepers, and when they were having a problem with an actor and they couldn't get a performance from them, I would get beeped and run over to Warner Brothers or Universal or whatever and work with them. So I think that really, as much as teaching acting, which I really learned a lot, I think being a dialogue coach for all of those years even helped more.
Wow.
Because then I saw the collaborative process. I saw what the directors did on set and that kind of thing. So coming from an actor's viewpoint myself, I'm very sensitive to someone telling you how to do a part. I always say to the actors, I'll say to you, I'll say to everybody on Promsieland, I always say the first day of a shoot, I give you any direction you don't feel comfortable with, you say, Tom, that doesn't work for me. It's done. It's over. If it doesn't work for you, it's not going to work for me. So we try different things. And I'll say, try this, try that. And then ask the actor which do they feel most comfortable with, which worked for them. I'll tell them which worked for me better. And, it's a collaborative effort.
Wow. Wow. So it sounds like it comes down to communication.
We're all in this together. Sometimes I take my work very seriously. So having said that, we're on a set. We're not curing cancer. We're not doing anything that important in the scope. Now, it's important to us. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. When I'm on a set, that's so important to me what's going on.
Yeah.
Money-wise, shots-wise, creativity-wise. But sometimes, you might get two crew members, two experts who are kind of arguing about this, that, and I go, or actor arguing. I take them into the dressing room and I go, guys, in the real scheme of things, we're just not that important. Let's just go out and have a good time. Let's shoot this thing, do the best we can, but we're not going to change the world with this project. Yeah, we hope it makes money. That's, so that the people paying for it can get their money back. So that's kind of my philosophy.
Wow. Yeah, sounds like it's been working. I mean.
Well, again, I've been very lucky and blessed to do what I do.
Wow. Now.
Oh, wait a minute. You're coughing.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no. Thank God I'm not there.
Exactly. I think this is a safe enough distance.
Well, it's more than 6 feet.
Exactly. Is there anything else? Now, let's see. What does the future hold for Tom Logan, aside from, in addition to Promised Land?
Well, I've always got things that are in pre-production. Right after Promsieland, assuming we shoot in the end of May. We don't really know kind of how that's all going to unfold. Not because we're not ready. We're funded. We're ready. It has to do with the virus. Then I'm doing a project right out of Chicago.
Okay.
That I'm really excited about. It's got some name talent in it. I just can't quite release who they are yet, but they're name talent. We're in the middle of contract. Well, we do before we sign a contract, we do help me out, Joey. A deal memo.
Okay.
And so the deal memos are all done. And so then, then you get into the details and all that. It's a long process. But anyway, I'm really excited about that. It's a true story. And it's called The Farm, and it's about a story about a lady named Belle Guinness who in 1908 killed about 40 men for their money, and she's been called the most prolific female killer of all time. Oh, wow. So I'm real excited about that as well, and then other things. So there's always something going on.
Oh, well, congratulations on The Farm. That sounds like a very interesting project.
It is.
And back to Promsieland, we're ready to go. Obviously, we're ready. End of May come, depending upon restrictions and whatnot, and the virus and whatnot.
Well, I've done my prep work, and I design every single shot, every angle. Directing, as you know, is really geometry. It's angles and shots and how those angles are all going to cut together. Sometimes first-time directors, including myself when I was one, you go out and you just start shooting. But nowadays, I design every shot, every angle, how it's going to cut together, even the transitions, by the way. For instance, I had a scene not long ago where I have to cut from a guy dying in the street in a car wreck to a bar scene. Very bad cut, which things writers don't think about too much is what am I cutting from, what am I cutting to? Now, if I wanted to jar the audience, that would be a really good cut because it's bang, it's jar. But I didn't want to because I wanted to feel sympathy for the guy. So I cut from blood running down the guy's arm to a bar scene where a Bloody Mary had just been spilt, and then go up the guy's arm or the guy who spilt the Bloody Mary. So you tie the scenes together. So I spent a lot of time working on what am I cutting from, what am I cutting to? Sometimes you'll watch a show and you might see two people in a bedroom, and the next cut is those same two people in a hospital bedroom or somebody else's bedroom. And it's very jarring. So you got to come up with kind of creative ways how to cut from something to another. So I've done the transitions, I've done all the angles and the shots, and I think we're ready to go.
Wow. The only other question I had left was, what can we as cast and crew be doing to ensure the success of Promsieland, this upcoming project? Aside from us talking about it right now, putting it out there for the universe, what else can we be doing to make sure that this thing is what it's supposed to be?
Perform well. Well, one thing is, bottom line.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One thing is just know your dialogue first off. This isn't too much of a problem, but every once in a while you run into an actor who and that holds the whole shoot up. And it only takes one actor to destroy a project. If let's say you're having a dinner party and you have 10 couples and 9 of them are having a wonderful time, but one of them is screaming and yelling at each other, talking about divorce and having a food fight. Actually, that might be kind of interesting. That would ruin the entire, if you're doing a play and you have 9 brilliant actors and you have one that's terrible, it ruins everything.
Wow.
So know your dialogue. Be flexible when we get on set in case we want to make any kind of changes. And be prepared. It's just amazing to me, even in auditions when people come in and they've had the script for 3 or 4 days, they're just totally unprepared. Doesn't mean you necessarily have to have it memorized, but surely know it well enough where you don't have to read it off a page the entire time. So preparation, get good night's sleep as best you can before we shoot. We're going to have some pretty long days. I tend to do that. I tend to get a lot of coverage, which helps with pacing and all that. And continue to study your craft. The biggest stars, I've had actors in classes that have had their own series for years and years and years. I taught a class many years ago for the networks, ABC, CBS, NBC. You had to have your own series. It was paid for by the network, not the actors. And you had to have your own series to be in the show, not a co-star. You had to have your own TV series. These are people who've been in their own series for 5 and 6 years, but yet when their show was in reruns and they were on hiatus, they were still studying their craft. So we should always continue to study our craft, even though they have the role and they're ready to go. If they have an acting teacher, might work with them a little bit on it, although be careful, don't get too locked in. And so that would be my advice. Wow.
So it sounds like be prepared is the key to success.
That is the key. And take direction.
Absolutely.
But only if it works for you.
Wow. Tom, thank you so much for sharing all this valuable information with me and the viewer as well. Is there anything else that we would like to touch on before we wrap this thing up?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for your podcast. I think it's a wonderful thing that you do for actors that they can watch, especially with what most people are sitting at home right now.
Yeah.
It's a great time to sit and watch. I encourage them to watch other podcasts that you've done. I saw the one that Amy Johnson did, because it was sent to me, and I'll watch the others now because it was a very interesting interview, and I learned a lot about her, which I've used before, and we're going to use again, and you, and I'm looking forward to working with you, and thank you for doing this service for actors.
Oh, the pleasure's all mine, Tom. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, stay safe in Iowa. Man,
we're luckily up here. I don't have anybody that lives near me, so except to run to the grocery store every once in a while, it's pretty safe here.
I guess we don't know the next time you're. I mean, when did you plan to fly out west again?
Well, I planned to about a week from now or two, okay. But that's not happening.
Right.
Actually, maybe it was last week. I can't remember now. But the next time right now I have planned is your show, Jaron's show, and that's at the end of May, we hope. Right. We'll have to see what gives. We certainly don't want to put actors in any kind of danger or situation they don't feel comfortable with. We want to shoot the show. Everybody wants to get back to work, but we've got to be responsible too. So we'll just have to wait and see that. But the next project will be that project.
I got a good feeling about it. I don't know why. I feel like end of May, I feel like something's going to happen.
Well, let's hope so. Me too.
Absolutely. Tom Logan, thank you so much for joining me, sir.
Thank you, Joey.